See, this being Father's Day, I think it's quite appropriate to share a song with you that is about my own dad. Because he was a man of faith, a man who understood Romans 8:28 and 29. All things work together for good because God is conforming us to the image of Jesus. And in his life, he strove to live that way. Now, he wasn't perfect. In fact, when I was a teenager, I wasn't real happy with him a lot of the time. Some of the time was because he was doing the right thing. And I really wasn't ready for that. But, yeah, he made mistakes. He went the wrong way sometimes. Sometimes he probably didn't listen to God, too. But I know in my life, I could look at my memories of him and his life. And I rarely recall a time that his heart wasn't focused on God. He loved God. He loved us as family. He loved his neighbor, and he showed it through the things that he did. And the point I'm trying to make is that we as believers, those of us who are believers here, we preach a sermon to those around about us. People who may never come into a church and hear a sermon from our pastor. But we preach a sermon to those around us. And so that's why I've entitled the song, The Sermon. He was only 5'3", not a tall, imposing man, and he never saw the world, painted pictures or wrote books. But the man that I speak of was a big man just the same, for he counted what was inside to be worth far more than looks. And I'll count my life successful to be half what Daddy was. He showed me and many others what to live for. And he didn't think himself to be a great man, but he was. He loved God, his family, and his neighbor. His life, it was a sermon, that's the way it spoke to me. Many lessons I've applied along the way. I thank God for his foundation, his firm but gentle way. The man, my dad, the sermon, I'll remember all my days. The week before he died, he stood before the church, and he said the things he knew he had to say. It was said in just a moment, that's all it seemed to take. It's as though he felt it might be his last day. Now there are preachers who preach loudly, and some with lots of flair, and there are preachers who are bold with what they say. But the life he lived before us spoke far more than words could say. The man, my dad, the sermon, I'll remember all my days. His life, it was a sermon, that's the way it spoke to me. Many lessons I've applied along the way. And I thank God for his foundation, his firm but gentle way. The man, my dad, the sermon, I'll remember all my days. Yes, his life was a sermon, that's the way it spoke to me. Many lessons I've applied along the way. I thank God for his foundation, his firm but gentle way. The man, my dad, the sermon, I'll remember all my days. The man, my dad, the sermon, I'll remember all my days. That's a sermon that will stay in my heart forever. As long as I live, and probably into eternity, that sermon will be with me. And you see, that's the way people look at us. If you're a believer, people look at you and me, and we are the message to them.